be speaking about, our second topic was about Upwork. Today, I am talking about Fiverr. Now, most of my work, now whatever I tell you is based on my own experiences. I have been freelancing since 2012. I don't have a regular or monthly job. So when I say something, you know that it's coming from more than 10 years of practical experience as a freelancer and freelancing. As of now, most of my money revenue comes from either Upwork or Fiverr. I mean, of course, I do get some inquiries through my email, my website, my social media, and things like that. But that is like maybe 20, 25%. But majority of the time, work is coming from these freelancing platforms. The big one is the Upwork. The second big one is Fiverr. Now, these two platforms are there all over the world. They have a very good established platform. They've been in this business for many years. So that is why I'm talking about. I spoke about Upwork in the previous session. And
Jay, what was the first one? You mentioned Fiverr. What was the other one?
So the big one from part 2, the previous workshop, is Upwork.
Upwork?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to put that into chat.
Yes, sir. So those of you who are coming in just now, do not forget to watch the previous episode, because all these episodes are linked in a sequence, and that is the way they are meant to be watched. So let's talk about Upwork here, my dear students. So let's talk about Fiverr. I keep getting confused because they're both so equally important. So, like two coins the same face kind of thing. So the thing about Upwork, the one I spoke about previously, is Upwork is more of a, I would say, long-term kind of work. I mentioned it last time as well. So if you have something, for example, I am currently being hired and managed by AIU folks through Upwork. We've been together for more than like 8-9 months. I think we're coming in on the anniversary very soon. So such kind of long-term relationships, Upwork is really, really good for. Now, Fiverr is more about gigs, okay? So I'm just gonna say that again. So when I say gig, I always draw a comparison to something like when you take a Uber ride or such kind of things, where what I like to call ready to deliver services, okay? Now the concept here is slightly different from what we make on Upwork. So I'm gonna always try to compare it with Upwork, so I'm assuming many of you will have already come to the second workshop and will know what I'm talking about. So what is a ready to deliver service? Now let's talk about something like, it's like in India, for example, like right now I'm traveling. So anywhere I go in India, I know, like if I ask for a cup of chai or tea, in India we call it chai, I always know what I'm getting. Okay, because anywhere in India, the chai is prepared in the same way. Water plus chai leaves plus sugar plus milk. That's the way we make tea in India. That is the 99.99% how India makes tea. Of course, there are some places where when you ask for tea, they'll have different kind of tea without milk and stuff like that. But no, that's not Indian tea. So when I say Indian tea, I'm talking about the standard water, tea leaves, sugar, and milk. Now that is a ready to purchase product. So there's no confusion about it. So anywhere I'm there, wherever I travel, it doesn't matter which city I get down in, which town I get down in, which village I'm traveling through, which small remote place I'm staying in. When I ask for chai at a shop that sells chai, I already know what I'm getting. Okay, now that is an example I would like to use when I define ready to deliver services, which means no one has any sort of confusion what you are going to deliver, okay? So that is very much a key point to remember with Fiverr. Now that is how I define a gig, okay? So a gig, those of you who are making notes, is something where it is ready to deliver, which means both you, the freelancer, offering the service, and the person buying or paying for the service, you both have very clear understanding about what you're about to pay for and what you're supposed to deliver. Now, this is what I would like to call a gig. So another example is when you take a ride in a cab. So when you're in a city, you book an Uber or something. I get down from the railway station. I book the cab. I put the location where I'm supposed to go. It's a car, so I'm gonna sit in. I know how a car looks, what kind of seating I can expect, what kind of air conditioning I can expect, and the driver drives me and he then drops me off. So there is no confusion about what I'm supposed to get. So this is what I like to call a gig, and the way I put it is ready to deliver services. So these are the kind of services which are tailor-made to sell on Fiverr. Professor Lambert, I just want to make sure that you, as an audience surrogate, sir, does that definition make sense to you? When I say a gig, does that make sense, Professor Lambert?
Yeah, I think there are many ways to think of a gig, but it's like you find this work that you're going. It's like a contractor where you're contracting out a piece of work, and then once that work is done, the job is done.
That is correct, Dr. Lambert. But what I'm doing here is the same thing happens in Upwork as well. So I'm trying to divide those two here. So what I'm saying is, if you already know what you're getting, that is more suitable for Fiverr. But if there are additional complications, then that is more suitable for Upwork. So I'm trying to make that division here, sir. So that is the part I'm trying to emphasize.
So with Fiverr, you really have to have a clear
Yes.
you have to know clearly what you're going to provide to somebody, and you have to define that very clearly.
That's right, sir. That is right. So that should be known.
Because they're going to depend on you for a longer period of time.
So it's actually the opposite, Dr. Lambert. So Fiverr is more suitable for things where the work is over in a few days, usually in 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
Whereas in Upwork, like for example, you and me and IAIU, we've been working for months now. So Upwork is more suitable for such long-term arrangements.
Well, usually the person who's going to contract you on Fiverr, they're going to tell you very clearly what they need, right?
That's true, sir. But that is where, this is one of the reasons why I'm emphasizing this, Dr. Lambert. Like a lot of freelancers, especially first-timers, they would be under the impression that that is how it works. In reality, that's not how it works. So on Fiverr, for real success, I'm talking big dollars, big orders. It's very important that you keep your gig description and the product details so clear that you are able to communicate, whether you are actually talking to the customer or not, and also the amount is small enough, and the delivery is usually within a few days, normally 3 to 5 days.
So the responsibility is on the person who's offering the services to be very clear about what they're going to do.
Exactly, Professor. Now, I want to emphasize that. And there is another reason why I'm kind of encouraging you to speak as well on behalf of the students here, is because in my early days of Fiverr, I got a lot of blowback from the Fiverr customers because I was approaching Fiverr just like I approached freelancing on Upwork. So I got a lot of negative reviews. I got a lot of refunding reviews. I got a lot of complaints. And in fact, the problem is because Fiverr uses a Uber-style rating system, once you get a couple of negative reviews, it can take you up to 6 months to recover. So that is where I just want to make sure that the people who want to come in, if you have something which is simple enough, can be easily defined. Like an example is article writing. So if you're in the business of writing articles, then you already know what you're going to write. You already know the length of the article. You already know how long it takes to write the article. You already know, like, okay, if the order is for 5 articles, then you know you can do it in 5 days. So when you have such kind of clarity, only then, and such kind of services, please go ahead and set up your shop on Fiverr. But if you have something which needs continuous communication and understanding and stuff like that, then perhaps Upwork makes for a better platform. That's the way I'm trying to define these two platforms, Professor. Professor, you're muted, sir. Yes, Professor. You went off on mute again.
Oh.
Now you're back.
Okay. I guess you're recommending that a person apply both on Upwork and on Fiverr, but to do it differently on either one.
That is right, Professor. But however, when it comes to freelancing, sir, what I've noticed is some people find higher success on Fiverr, and some people find higher success in Upwork. For example, if I divide my annual revenue something based on the platforms, I would say 90% comes from Upwork. So same guy, I barely make any on Fiverr. So there you go, sir. So the Fiverr is more designed, but like my work is more complex, professor. It requires constant communication with the.
Jay, can you give an idea of like maybe 3 to 6 services that are very popular on these services on these
I do
websites?
that right now, professor. So extending the definition here, my dear students. So I would say uh, Fiverr is better suited if you're doing stuff like voice recording. You're doing stuff like article writing. SEO articles is big business. If you are doing stuff like making videos, like pre-recorded videos and stuff like that. If you're a musician, where you already know you're making icons, you are building simple websites. I'm going to be very clear on that. Simple websites, not complex websites. So these are the kind of things, Professor Lambert, are better suited for Fiverr. Now, Upwork is where anything which is more complex than a 10-minute discussion, Professor. For example, what I'm doing right now for AIU, like I do workshops, there's a lot of discussion that happen behind the scenes between your staff and me. So we're always discussing, coming up with new ideas, what to do, what not to do, rescheduling, scheduling. So all those things happen, Professor. So, and also the key difference here is how long-term is it happening? Like on Upwork, sir, like I'm working with you for more than 10 months now. I have another client I've been working for 6 months. Another client I've been working for 6 months. Another client I used to work for almost like a year and a half. So when the duration is really long and the work is complex, then Upwork makes sense. For example, consulting, training, tutoring, like what I'm doing right now, working on complex software projects, working on software service systems. So these kind of things, so where there is like complex, anything which can't be just defined overnight or something, those are more suited for Upwork.
Yeah, I have a question. You on Upwork and Fiverr, you could probably offer your services personally, just yourself. What if you formed a group of like 2 or 3 other people working with you? Does that increase your success?
That is something which a lot of freelancers do, Professor Lambert, and it's not really discouraged or anything. Upwork has a system called agency. So they actually encourage you to, like, if you have a business or something with a group of people working, you can open up like a storefront on Upwork, and you can bring in a group of freelancers and work together. In fact, a lot of times I'll get a proposal from my client, like they want to hire me, and if I'm not available, there is actually a very convenient button that says refer another freelancer. So that is very much encouraged. Same thing on Fiverr, sir. You're more than welcome to set up a storefront if you're working with a group of freelancers, and that part is actually encouraged. Um, that is something I haven't done myself, but if there are people out there, usually if you're in the business, it's like a high volume business, especially SEO article writing. Now, when you think of Fiverr, Professor, the first thing that comes to your mind is article writing, audio recording, video making, photography, logo design, simple website design. Now, these are high volume things. Like, a guy comes in, hey, bro, you know what? I have a marketing announcement, like an Instagram reel video that's need to be made. I have 2 days to get it ready. Can you do it? So a lot of times freelancers are working in a group already. So quick turnaround times, I would recommend. So those of you who are in that creative side of things, like not too creative, but more like, as I said, article writing, music recording, audio recordings, video making, stuff like that, where you can do things fast. I would recommend you focus on Fiverr. Anything more complex than that, please go ahead and set up a shop. Now, ideally, you would set up a shop on both, Professor Lambert, because you never know from where the customer might go. Because in some countries, Fiverr is more popular. In some countries, Upwork is more popular. Upwork looks, it looks a little bit dull. If you go to the website, it looks very grayish and green color. Fiverr is more colorful and joyful and stuff like that. So you would have a shop on both. But when you're starting new, this is for beginners. I would ask you to, focus your energies on one platform. I'll tell you why, Professor. What happens is, let's say you set up a shop on both, and after 2 months, you still haven't received a single order on either of the platforms. Now that's going to bum you out. and the marketing approach for either of these is very different. So I always recommend first-time freelancers, look at your skill set. If your skill set is complex, like for example, if you have a master's degree or a PhD degree, and you come in with a lot of experience, your work is more knowledge heavy, then I would recommend you stay on Upwork, because that is where you'll get a lot of complex, high volume work. But if you're just starting or you're more in the gig type of work, again, article writing, audio recording, voice recording, stuff like that, which is more simplified, then I would recommend you start off with Fiverr. But of course, once you established your business in one place, it should be easier for you to transfer your skills from one platform to another. But in my own experience, I've noticed that Upwork is more filled with, like for example, Professor Lambert, on Upwork, contracts can go up to $5,000, $10,000, $25,000. It's not unusual to find such contracts and things like that. Whereas on Fiverr, orders, they very rarely have I seen anybody sell things for more than $50 or $100. So you can see that there itself. So Fiverr is more about quick turnaround times, whereas Upwork is more like a serious stuff. Not to say Fiverr is not serious, just to make a distinction. So I'm on both of them, Professor, but because my skill set is, experience and otherwise is much on the higher side, I don't get that much work on Fiverr. But I did make some money in my early days of the career, so I cannot forget. Does that answer your question, Professor?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So
yes,
next thing
I think it's really good to have a conversation about this, because it kind of really clarifies.
That's the thing, Professor, because I have seen, I do coaching for freelancing here in Bangalore, India, and a lot of times, I've seen people approaching Fiverr like Upwork and approach Upwork like Fiverr, and then they end up not winning on either of these platforms. So I want to make sure here in this audience, they don't make that mistake. There are two different platforms, two different cultures, different type of customers, different kind of requirements. So where you want to start, pick it properly, because the first platform you choose, you're going to be there for 6 months at least trying to establish your name. So I call it, don't travel on two boats, Professor. At least in the beginning, travel on one boat, reach your journey first, and then once you are like experienced, travel on 2 boats, 10 boats, jump around, do whatever you want. So that's my policy.
Let's see. There is a question here in chat that it came to me personally.
Okay.
A student has a master's in public health and epidemiology. Now, would a person who is working in epidemiology, public health, would they have a place on Upwork and Fiverr?
For something that I don't know anything about that, Professor, but because it is a higher degree, I'm going to assume it's a complex one. It requires complex operations. Such kind of things, you would be much more at home with Upwork, simply because that would be what I would call like a high niche professor. Like niches matter a lot in freelancing. For example, sir, I do this thing called curriculum design for coding institutions. It's a very, very niche kind of work, sir. But yes, it's a high paying work. So I get a lot of that work on Upwork. It is niche, but the kind of people who are looking for these advanced skill set, I've seen them being present and looking and offering work on Upwork. Whereas in Fiverr, sir, the thing is, it has way too many sellers, way too many people who are offering products, and it is very easy to get lost, Professor. So that is something I've noticed. Like it's very easy to get lost in Fiverr because a lot of these products, they start at $5, $10. So let's say you are in a niche with a master's degree and stuff like that. Obviously, you're not going to work for $10, $20 and stuff like that. So even if you offer your services, you're probably going to be in page number 50 or 60. And nobody's going to click 50 times on the next page on the search results, Professor. So by the time they find you, they may never find you. Whereas in Upwork, it doesn't work that way, sir, because once you start searching for a specific skill set, that specific skill set gets sorted usually in the first or second page. Because you're the only, you might be a select few people offering that service. So it's much more conducive. So for that kind of a situation, yes, Professor Lambert, I would recommend something like that.
You know, it's interesting. I just went to Fiverr and I looked at there's a thing that you could that's very popular to do on the internet right now, being a game master. Like we were talking about your project of having games. There are
Yes, sir.
people that are on the internet who will create a game for you and be the game master. And there's
Yes, sir.
lots of them on Fiverr right now, and they can make upwards of like $100 for 2 to 3 hours
There you go,
of
sir.
work.
There you go.
And then but they have game sessions every week, so it's an ongoing type of thing. So being a game master, you have to learn the game,
Yes, sir.
and then being there to facilitate a game for people online is you can actually make a lot of money. I know people making over $1,000 a week, and there's some people there, and if you go on that, so they're making a lot of money. They're making some of these game masters are making over $100,000 per year being a
I would
game.
not be surprised with that, Professor. There is always demand for high level of skills. So it doesn't matter which industry you are in.
And it doesn't come with any sort of degree. It just becomes your own experience learning a game and learning how to
That's right.
facilitate that game for other people.
That is correct, Professor. That's right.
So
Yes,
so
sir.
you don't
Yes,
have to use your degree on that on Fiverr or Upwork. You can use any type of knowledge that you have that you can facilitate for other people.
Well, Dr. Lambert, when you think about it, sir, ultimately a degree is more of a validation of your existing skill set. That's
Yeah.
the way I always looked at degrees. Degrees don't make a person. A person is already a person. A degree just gives them a recognition that they can do something. So that's the way I look at things. I mean, for example, in America, sir, I understand you don't even need to have a degree to apply for a software job. So there you go, sir. You can't have a bigger proof than that.
So usually if you want to be a game master, right? If you look at this whole other category of game master, you can have like 4 people show up to the game, and each person pays from $10 to $30 for like a 2-hour session. So you could make upwards of $120 in 2 hours.
And that's the way there you go, Professor. That's the whole thing about Fiverr. So Fiverr works for such kind of scenario. So there you go, sir. So if you have services which can be broken down into individual parts, with smaller amounts, essentially what you're doing is, what I've noticed, sir, is that let's say if you become like an article writer, assuming you eventually become popular or something, you're essentially writing about 20 to 30 articles per week. You're only charging $25 per article, but then 25 into 30, that's almost like $800 per week. So there you go, Professor. That's really how the Fiverr system works. So you're offering the services, you're pricing them low, but because you can turn them around really fast, eventually you end up with a whole bunch of orders, a whole bunch of customers. I mean, they can come back and keep ordering from you. So that's, if you're in that kind of skill set. Or another thing which is really good is if you have a good voice, good English, voice artists make a lot of money as well. So like, a recording takes 1 hour for 2 hours of, like 2 hours of recording for 1 hour recording. So you record for 5 hours, that 5 hours, $20 a recording. So it's like $100 a day. So that's really how Fiverr works. So it works where I would say Fiverr is more on the small scale, creative side of things, Professor. Whereas an Upwork, as I said, so it's more of a knowledge-based economy, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, well, I'm the best example for the Upwork thing. Fiverr is more for guys who are more on the creative and the shorter turnaround kind of things. Yes.
See, this is where I'm kind of going on this, is because you can find something like in Africa, there's probably very, very few game masters, but they're going to be wanted around the world because of the cultural connection that they can bring a game about Africa to the internet world. And then they would be very popular and they could make a lot of money because no one's doing it. Or I think about if you know a language that's very specific to a certain part of your country, you can actually teach your language to
Yes,
certain
sir.
people on the internet, because there might be somebody in some country that's going to visit your part of your country and they want to learn that particular dialect.
That's right, Professor. Yes, like for example, sir, what you just said, it is already happening. Like on Fiverr, if you go and search for spoken English classes, where you already know that each session is like 1 hour, so there's no confusion about what you're going to be doing. So again, they're very popular, like $5 per session, $10, $20 per session. So they book you, they do the session, and then that's it. Usually they place the order, finish the order, close the order, and you're paid within the hour. So there you go. So I think you are getting the whole Fiverr concept, sir. So what works on Fiverr, what doesn't work on Fiverr?
Right. I guess the idea is don't limit yourself to what you're studying. Think of all these things you can develop, knowledge that you have, and also knowledge that you can develop that that you're just like, well, I never realized I could sell that. I never realized I could facilitate games on the internet and make a lot of money. Right. And that's how this whole gig economy is just
Yes.
exploding.
Well, it just so happens, Dr. Lambert, that in the next workshop, I will actually be talking about how to get ready the infrastructure part for freelancing. So I'll be talking a little bit more about what you really need to sell online. So I'm going to come to that. So what you just mentioned is actually going to be our next part. That's good. Yes.
Okay.
So just to return here, Professor. Now, the thing about Fiverr you need to remember is two things: the main gig and the pricing level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away from my PowerPoint for a minute here. I'm just going to pause the screen sharing. Let me switch over to my own Fiverr account. Hold on, folks. Just to give you an idea about how these gigs and price level works. Okay, and also, folks, as I mentioned, as I do every time, I always take all the questions after the session. So don't worry about it. So once I finish, I will. So I'm just bringing up my gig page here. There we go. Okay, profile, there it is. Okay, all right. Professor, are you able to see my Fiverr page? Are you able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good, folks. So folks, as you can see, that is my Fiverr account in front of you. And this is just your profile. So I just want to show you, like, when you set it up, make sure that you've filled up everything, obviously the photo and stuff like that. Now, one thing I want to show you right away is, see, these are the gigs. So right now I only have 2 gigs. I'm kind of busy with 2 companies right now, so I don't have much time. So this is another thing I do when I am already filled with work. I go ahead and switch off many of my gigs. I only keep either the most expensive gigs, or I keep only the niche gigs for which I know the demand is very less, and I can usually do them in a couple of hours. So that's another thing I want you guys to know. So set up your gigs. You can have up to 10 gigs on Fiverr. So if you have 10 skills, then go ahead, set up a gig for each of your skills. So what do I mean by that? For example, I teach JavaScript. I have a gig for that. I teach GitHub. I have a gig for that. But of course, I also have many other skills, but I have turned off all of them because I'm already occupied with other clients. So there's another thing important. Those of you who are making notes, you can have up to 10 gigs, price them with whatever prices you want. I'm pricing them a little bit higher because these are niche skills. And usually people who come to me, they're happy to pay that amount. So I'm okay with it. But you find your price over time and then set up the gigs. Now, a gig looks something like this. So there you go, folks. So here, you put all the details. Okay, so you can put in detail what you will do for your customer. Now, this is very, very important because I'll tell you something. I'll talk about dispute resolution in one of the future sessions. A lot of disputes will happen when you're freelancing. Okay, it will happen on Upwork, it will happen on Fiverr, and believe it or not, every single word that you put in your gig will either help you or it will take away money from you. So it's very important that when you set up your gig, be very careful about what you type, because when you talk to customer support, they are going to ask you, they're going to pinpoint every letter. And if you've written something and if that is not true, then you will lose money. You can't escape refunds and stuff like that. So put actual details. I like to keep things short, so I write the most minimum stuff. But if you want to put more details, you can put it. Don't forget, you can put photos about what you're going to teach. Now, I teach JavaScript. I use what is called as creative coding. I even did a workshop about it. So I have put creative coding images because this is what I'm going to be teaching as part of this gig. So there you go, folks. So whatever service you're offering, make sure you put some nice photos and images. Don't put too much of your own photos. I've seen people do that. There's nothing wrong with putting your own photos, like if you're good looking or handsome and stuff like that. But as much as possible, try to limit, person type photos, but try to put actual work related photos in your gig. The next thing to remember is the package pricing. Now you'll see here on the right side, Fiverr allows you to set up your prices for different levels of service. So again, using my own example, you'll see that I have the basic package, and then I have the standard package, and I have the premium package. Now, why does this matter? Like for some customers, they may be only looking for an hour or two of sessions. So for them, you please set up a basic package. So some customers might be looking for a long-term situation. For example, if you notice here very carefully, what really matters is the delivery day. So I have mentioned here the basic package is 3 days of delivery, whereas the standard package is 30 days of deliveries. And also they are getting more hours, and obviously the price is higher. So you have to sit and figure out these things like, okay, you have to give 3 levels. What is going to come in first level? How much you're going to charge? How many hours? And the most important thing, the delivery date. Okay, now this is so important because let's say you price something and then you put the delivery day as 1 day, and that day your internet is not working at home. I am telling you, the customer is going to get a full refund. And don't forget, even if the order gets a refund, they can still give you a negative review. So very careful with these things. So I always like to be very much on the safer side. Now I know that I can deliver 1 hour in 3 days. So that is why the package says, okay, 3 days delivery, and then standard 30 days, and then premium 60 days. Now, a lot of times, now you must understand, very few customers will actually just place an order, okay? I mean, people do that, yes, but most of the time, customers will message you and ask you, hey man, what do you do? These are the prices. If I buy more, buy less, can you give me a faster delivery? So a lot of discussions do happen. So, but the thing is, Fiverr is not like Upwork, like where there's a contract or something like that. So if a customer likes something, yeah, they can just buy it. You don't have any control over it. So please remember this. So once you set up a gig, the customer can just buy it, and that is already a contract. You can't escape from it. Okay. So please be careful with the prices. Please be careful with the delivery days, and please be careful with what you put about what you will do. Now, please note, usually customers will message before placing an order, but there are always customers who have, maybe they have too much money or they're in a rush or something. They'll place the order and then suddenly you have to start working. So please be ready for both of those things when you design your gig. So important. Okay. Another thing is now about pricing. Again, as I discussed in the first session, the second session, depends on your skill set, depends on what you're offering, and it also depends on how busy you are. Like whenever I am busy, I don't like to put my gigs low. I just increase the prices, and whenever I'm more free or something, I'll maybe give a discount or something like that. So that is actually a good strategy for a freelancer. Like when you're busy, you put yourself a higher price or something, and when you're free or something, maybe give a discount like 10%, 20%, and then once you become busy, you can increase the prices. And that's a good way to find out what your real rates are. So if you're getting a lot of work with a high price, then that's good for you, right? That means your skills are worth that much. So that is the main thing about the gigs, the pricing. And one more thing I want to show before I return to my PowerPoint is the Fiverr levels. Okay, now you see here, Professor Lambert, do you see this purple color markings? Level 2.
Level 2.
Okay, so there you go, folks. Now that is something like on Upwork as well.
But Jay, on the previous slide, I just wanted to tell you that there's a word that's misspelled in your bio. When you said if you are interesting, you should say you are interested.
Oh, which one, Professor?
Yeah, go back a page.
You mean on my Fiverr account? Oh, 1 second, sir.
Yeah, where you were talking about yourself and what you do. There, if it says get in touch with me if you are interested.
Oh my God, Professor, yes,
Okay, just trying to help you
I
out
will.
there.
Thank you, Professor. I will fix it
Because
pronto,
a,
immediately.
a person might see that and think, nope, I don't really want to trust this person. So
I, I,
I'm
I
here.
will fix it, Professor. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
In all that, I missed that, sir. I will fix it.
I
Thank you,
love you.
Professor.
I love you. I'm here for you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Guys, there you go. So always be open to feedback. Number one rule for freelancing: listen to the elders. They always have wisdom and stuff. Thank you, Professor Lambert. So returning to the levels, guys. So remember, in Fiverr, levels matter. Just like in Upwork, you may remember in Upwork, I am top rated. So that is like the top 10% on Upwork. So similarly, on Fiverr, there are levels. You have the early level, like new account. You have level 1, and then you have level 2, which is what I am in right now. And then you have the biggest level, Fiverr Pro. Okay. So I'm not a Fiverr Pro. As I mentioned, I don't get that much work here. Although I'm top rated in Upwork, I'm not top at all in Fiverr. I'm still in level 2. It's not like too good. It's not too bad either. So there you go. Levels matter. But the thing is, in both Upwork and Fiverr, all it takes is 1 or 2 negative reviews to lose your elite pro status. Okay. So just remember that. Now, how to avoid getting done, how to avoid losing these things, probably I'll talk about in the future. But right now, remember, achieving these levels means now what happens when you go to level 1 or level 2, customers look at your profile, so they know that, okay, this badge means this person is reputed, he's been in the business for 6 months or 1 year or more than that. Obviously, there are reviews. I'm lucky enough to have so many reviews, all of them 5-star. But sometimes, yes, I do get negative reviews or something, and things can go kaput. So that does happen. I'm lucky. I've been lucky so far. So there you go. So that's about the Fiverr levels, and that is about how you should go about setting up your gig. And as Professor Lambert pointed out, there you go. There were some spelling mistakes. You got to be careful about that as well. For all I know, I may have lost at least one customer because of that. So I'm going to fix that immediately after today's call. So I'm going to return to the PowerPoint here, Professor Lambert. If you have any questions, so let me know. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next part of the slides.
You're good to go.
Okay, all right. Now, the next thing here, my dear students, is now the big problem. I wouldn't call it a problem, but it is a bit of a problem to me. So if it's a problem to someone like me who's experienced, it would be a problem to you as well. Now, Fiverr has a very strict system where you have to reply usually within an hour when the customer messages. Okay. Now that is why I'm going to dedicate a few minutes and an entire slide for this part. Now, Upwork, it's okay. When a customer messages you, it's okay if you don't reply immediately. That's fine. That's not a big deal over there. But in Fiverr, they really measure and track how fast you reply to a customer inquiry. So I want to talk about this for a little bit here. Now, the main problem is, once again, let me go back to my profile here. Now, you will see here somewhere, hold on, let me go to, they're not showing they're not showing it here. I can't see it. Customers can see it, guys. I'm sorry, it's not visible. Sorry. So usually customers can see.
I'm thinking of something that someone could offer on Fiverr. What would you think about? There are news organizations around the world that are looking for stories.
Yes,
And
sir.
what if you could offer your services to interview different people and find different people in your community for people who are working internationally, like news reporters?
So that wouldn't work here, Dr. Lambert, because a lot of times that would fall under article writing. So I suppose if somebody is looking for article writing about their local culture and stuff like that, so that would fall under the article writing category. Then that is something that is still people already do so. But in my experience of the news guys, I think they have their own network. I mean, they have people everywhere, like florists. So I do not know if they will fall here, Professor. At least not that I know of. I'm not in that industry, so but I don't know, Professor.
Okay, sounds good.
But article writing does happen a lot. I would say, at least in my experience, half of Fiverr is about article writing. So if you're good in article writing, this is the place to be.
Yeah, it's almost like being a private investigator. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Could you offer your services if you needed to find somebody, or if you needed to know something about something, and that person is far away and they need you in that town to find something?
Professor, there's nothing stopping you from setting up something like that, sir. Although I believe that would still, I think, from what I understand, I've not seen such profiles, Professor. So I don't have a comment.
Yeah, I'm just throwing out some ideas for the students in
Yes,
chat.
yes.
Different things that they could think. Wow, I didn't realize I could do that. Really?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Kind of brainstorming these ideas.
I would love to do that, Professor, if I had. Yes.
Okay.
But the main thing here, guys, is that Fiverr tracks how fast you reply to messages. So if you don't reply within an hour, that can be a problem. How is that a problem? You will not show up in the search results. Customers might see and think that, hey, you know what, this guy doesn't reply fast. I'm going to go with someone else. Because the thing about Fiverr, guys, is a lot of the services or order offered are usually replaceable. Again, think of a taxi. If you don't get one taxi, you can literally take the next taxi. It's not like you're in love with a specific taxi, because there's nothing great about this taxi or that taxi. So if you don't get one taxi, you can go to another taxi. Like, for example, when you want to watch a movie, you can watch it in one cinema hall. If you don't like that, you can simply go and watch the same movie in another cinema hall, and the experience would be pretty much the same. So gigs are very much replaceable. So when such this, because in Fiverr, if you're an article writer, there must be some 10,000 people who are willing to write the same article. So that is why in Fiverr especially, not on Upwork, on Fiverr, because your services are replaceable, speed is highly important. So how do you solve this problem? How do you make sure you respond to customer inquiries? Now, the first and probably the only thing you can do is install the Fiverr app on your mobile phone and on your computer, turn on the notifications. So anytime a customer messages, go ahead, reply immediately. Okay, if the customer says you want to talk, jump in for a conversation. But what Fiverr really measures is the first time you reply. Now, again, they don't tell us exactly what they measure, but in my experience, the first response is what matters. So let's say if you're traveling or something, maybe you could ask your mom or your friend, your roommate, or somebody to handle your account, at least for the messaging part. At least you are able to come online. Now, my understanding is during nighttime, Fiverr doesn't really measure the time. So whenever it is nighttime in your country, so for example, in India, I don't think Fiverr cares if I don't reply between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. So I don't think they measure the time during nighttime. But during day hours, work hours, they usually want to find out, hey man, how long did you take to reply? So sometimes it can be a bit of a hassle, because if you are working as an article writer, you might be getting inquiries. Oh, something happened there, Professor.
Sorry about that. I had someone unmuted their microphone for somehow.
Let me just remove that permission, sir. 1 second. Professor, can you hear me, sir? Mr. Lambert, are you able to hear me?
There we go. I just changed the setting on that.
Yes, sir. I also did the same thing, so that should be okay. Yes, sir. Okay. That was a little unusual. Yeah. Okay. So guys, so coming back to Fiverr. So on Upwork, it's not really a big deal. It's okay. You can take your own time to reply. Although in general, you should reply to your customer as soon as possible. But in Fiverr, it is measured like really hard, and it shows up on your profile like this guy replies in less than an hour. This person takes 1 day to reply. So those things become matter. Like when the customer is searching for somebody, obviously a customer is going to go for someone who is going to reply in less than an hour. So really, that's a very, very important metric. Don't, become lax on that. Install the mobile app, get the notification done. And if you are busy or like, you obviously if you're freelancing, you have another job and stuff like that. So maybe you can ask some help from your family member or a roommate. I don't think there's anything wrong about it. They can just say like, hey, I got your message. Give me a time when you want to have a Zoom call or something like that. So at least that much, you don't have to do it in person, but as long as you're applying, keeping the account active, that should be okay. But this is a huge deal on Fiverr because it shows up on your profile, and a lot of times customers are like, okay, if the guy is late, then why bother? In fact, I'm sure I have been guilty of that. A lot of times I might be busy or I might be traveling. I won't reply for 12 hours or something. And I'm sure I'm on my profile. I think now it shows it doesn't even have a response time because a lot of times I may not even reply. So that is a dangerous issue, especially if you are in one of those high volume kind of services. So this is the key thing. So those of you are making notes, set up your profile, set up your gigs, the 3 packages, the 3 rates, delivery times, and then of course, don't forget to respond to your customers as fast as possible, okay? And if you can't do it alone, then go ahead, take help from your roommates and also from your parents or family members, siblings, and stuff like that. Professor Lambert, does that make sense? Does that make sense to you, the whole being fast thing?
Those are the basics. That's what you got to do. And you got to stay on
Okay.
top of it.
Excellent. Guys, I have one last topic today, and after that, I'll go on to, so there are some additional topics. I don't think I can take them today, but yeah. Okay, so last topic for today, guys. After that, we can go on to some questions. Now, this is kind of a pain point, like a real challenge on Fiverr. Managing order flow and also unexpected orders. Now, both of them have been a huge challenge for me in my experience. Now, but first I need to explain to you what this means. Now, order flow is like, like essentially I'm telling you, maybe right now you're new and stuff like that, but I promise you, if you stay at it, you will get orders back to back, especially once you hit level 1 and level 2. I'm telling you, you'll get a lot of work, especially if you're in that high turnaround kind of thing, like article writing, audio recording, voice recording, video making, simple website building, stuff like that. Things that can be done in 1 or 2 days. You'll have a lot of orders just coming in day and night. Okay, that is called order flow, which means the orders are just coming, and sometimes you can't control it. You can't control it. It's too much work, and you're not sure what to do, right? And the second thing is unexpected orders. Okay, now when I say order flow, usually it's like step 1, customer sees your profile. Step 2, customer messages you. You reply within an hour. You have a Zoom call or something, and then you strike a deal, and the order is placed. Now that is what I'm talking about, a standard order flow. Now, unexpected orders are those orders where the customer never messages you. He never has a Zoom call with you. These are guys who are like, they saw your profile, they are impressed, and they have made up their mind to work with you. It's like they are so happy with your profile, they just want to place the order. That has happened to me many times. And I usually don't know what to do because I have an order, there's money waiting to be withdrawn, but I have no clue what the work is. And sometimes a customer forgets they placed an order. And then, you don't know what to do because the delivery is in 3 days and the customer is not responding. Now, what do? Now, that is called an unexpected order. So that happens a lot on Fiverr because there's no limit. You can't really control who buys your stuff and stuff like that. So anyway, so both of them fall under the same managing the order flow. Now, somewhere on Fiverr, there is a setting where you can limit the number of orders you can take at a time. I think it's something like 5 or 10 or something. That is okay. That's like an automated system, but I wouldn't recommend using it because I would like to control this myself. An easy way to manage the order flow is when you are about to hit your limit, okay? So let's say in a week, you can only handle 4 orders. Just taking an example. What I normally do is the moment I have a 4th order, I go online and I turn off the gig. Simple. So whichever gig is in high demand, okay, I can handle 4 orders in a week. I've gotten 4 customers. I've gotten 4 orders. I can't do more than that, but I don't want to get unexpected orders. So one simple solution is go online, switch off the gig. Okay, that's it. So if the gig is off, it means it is there on the website, but nobody can buy it because they can't see it. So that's option number 1. Okay, switch off your gig. Please do it. And then once the order is completed with the existing customers, go back and turn it on. It will start showing up to people again. So that is there. Okay. Second thing I do is sometimes when you switch off something, switch on something, it may take a few days for the Fiverr website to show it when people search for it. Okay, now that can be a problem because if you switch off the gig today and switch it on after 2 days, it may take another 2 days to show up in the search page. Now that can be a problem, right? Because for 2 days, you know you're waiting for work, but nobody can find you because the system is still trying to put you back on the map. So that's a challenge. So what I normally do is if I don't want to switch off my gig, I go ahead and increase the delivery date. So I keep the packages the same, basic package, the simple package and the third package. But what I do is, usually I'll have 3 days for the basic package, right? I go and change the delivery date to 7 days. So even if I get an order, the order clearly says 7 days. So it gets pushed to the next week. So there you go. That's another way you can manage your order flow so that when the 5th customer comes, they already know that you can't deliver this week at all. So you won't be held responsible. I mean, customers can still tell you like, hey man, can you send it fast or something like that? And you can always coordinate, talk to the customer, but at least you're not like obligated as a contract perspective. So customer support can't force you to deliver the order fast. So you can make it 7 days, you can make it 30 days. It doesn't matter, whatever is your comfortable amount. That is another way to managing the order flow. But this doesn't stop the unexpected order problem. So if I'm getting too many unexpected orders, which is a good thing, it's a good thing and people are just buying stuff from you. But if you can't deliver, they'll give you a negative review. That's a problem, right? So you don't want that, okay? So what I do is sometimes I don't want to switch up the gig. I've already put the delivery date. I'm still getting unexpected orders. The easiest thing to do is just increase the prices. That's it. If you normally charge $25 for an article, go ahead, make it 50, make it 100, doesn't matter. Make it a higher amount. So that way, anybody who's thinking of just placing the order before you talk to them, they'll at least think about it. Like, hey, hold on, this guy is charging $100 for an article. Maybe let me just talk to him first. Maybe just talk to him, ask for a discount or something. So that will stop them from just placing an order because the amount is so high, it'll make them think twice. So if you're having too much work, so main ways are, first option, switch off the gig. I don't recommend it, but still. Second option, increase the delivery date so that you have more time. And also, if you're still getting too many orders, last resort, just increase the prices till your demand goes low. I do this a lot. Like right now, I have a couple of clients, keeping me occupied. So I increase the prices so that, the unexpected orders, they never come at all. Nobody's gonna just place an order for like $1,000 or something just for fun, and they'll at least message before buying such a high expensive order. So there you go, folks. That is the last topic I wanted to discuss today. There are a couple of topics. I think 5 others already spoke about it. Now this is important, but I think I'll talk about this in a future session.